The knock came at 12:47 a.m. 3 soft taps on a door that hadn't been knocked on in years. Most people used the intercom at the gate, 2 miles down the private road. The few who made it past security used the doorbell, crystal chimes that echoed through 40 rooms of polished marble and empty space. Nobody knocked. Marcus Ashford stood in his study, brandy glass frozen halfway to his lips. The sound came again. Tap, tap, tap. Deliberate, patient, like whoever was out there had all the time in the world. He set down the glass. His hand shook slightly. He told himself it was the alcohol, not fear. Billionaires didn't feel fear in their own homes. They had gates, cameras, armed security who screened every delivery driver and scared off every journalist. But the knocking continued. Marcus walked through the hallway. His footsteps echoed on Italian tile. Paintings worth millions watched him pass. Faces of strangers he'd paid fortunes for, but never really looked at. The house was a museum. Beautiful, cold, empty except for him. The front door was solid oak, imported from somewhere he couldn't remember. He'd never actually opened it himself. That's what staff were for. He didn't have staff anymore. He looked through the peephole, saw nothing but darkness and rain. His security system showed no alerts, no breach at the gate, no movement on any camera, just the rain and the knock that shouldn't exist. Marcus opened the door. A little girl stood on his doorstep. Black, maybe 7 years old, soaking wet. Her dress, if you could call it that, was 3 sizes too big, hanging off her thin shoulders like a ghost's costume. Her hair was pressed flat against her skull by rain. Her feet were bare, bleeding. She looked up at him with eyes that had seen too much. "Please," she whispered, "she's dying." Marcus's brain stuttered. This wasn't real, couldn't be real. His gate was locked, his property stretched for acres. There were no neighbors close enough to walk from, no roads a child could travel alone at this hour. "Who's dying?" he heard himself ask. The girl turned, pointed into the darkness behind her. Marcus stepped onto the porch. Rain immediately soaked through his silk shirt. He looked where she pointed. Saw nothing at first, then movement, something crawling, dragging itself across his lawn. Another child, smaller, maybe 4 years old, face down in the mud, not moving anymore. "Help her," the older girl said. Her voice didn't beg, didn't plead, just stated a fact, like she'd already made peace with losing her. "Please help my sister." Marcus ran. He didn't think, didn't question. His body moved before his mind caught up. He reached the small shape in the mud, dropped to his knees, lifted her carefully. She was lighter than should be possible. Her skin was cold, too cold. Her chest barely moved. The older girl appeared beside him, watching, waiting. "How did you get here?" Marcus asked. "We walked." "From where?" "Far." He carried the small child inside. The older one followed, leaving muddy footprints on his expensive tile. He'd paid someone $80,000 to install that tile. He didn't care about it now. He laid the small one on his leather couch. $14,000, Italian, custom-made, now covered in mud and rain and possibly blood. He didn't care about that either. The child's breathing was shallow. Her lips had a blue tint. Hypothermia, maybe worse. Marcus grabbed his phone, dialed 911. "What's your emergency?" "I have a child.
2 children. One's unconscious. Hypothermia, maybe exposure. I need an ambulance now. What's your location, sir? He gave his address. The operator's tone changed. Everyone knew this address. Everyone knew who lived here. Mr. Ashford, is this really? Just send the ambulance. He hung up. The older girl stood by the couch, not crying, not panicking, just watching her sister with eyes that were too calm, too accepting, like she'd already made peace with losing her. What's your name? Marcus asked.
Grace. And your sister? Hope. Where are your parents, Grace? She looked at him, really looked at him, and in that moment Marcus saw something that made his chest constrict. Recognition, not of him specifically, but of what he was. Rich, powerful, the kind of person who usually looked right through kids like her. We don't have parents, Grace said simply. Not anymore. The ambulance arrived in 14 minutes. Felt like hours. Marcus had wrapped Hope in every blanket he could find, expensive cashmere throws that cost more than some people made in a month. He held her against his chest, trying to transfer warmth. Grace sat beside them, still calm, still watching. You saved her once before, Grace said quietly. Marcus froze. What? 5 years ago, you saved her. I've never met you before tonight. Grace's expression didn't change. You don't remember. That's okay. Most people don't remember us. We're easy to forget. The ambulance burst through the door, professional, efficient. They took Hope, started working immediately. Vitals, IV, warming blankets, medical words Marcus didn't understand but recognized as serious. Is she going to make it? He asked. The lead paramedic, a woman with kind eyes and tired lines around them, looked at him. When did she get this cold? I don't know. I found her maybe 20 minutes ago. You found her? Where? On my lawn. She was crawling. The paramedic's face changed, suspicion flickering. Sir, I need to ask. I didn't hurt them, Marcus said sharply. They showed up at my door. I called you immediately. The paramedic studied him, then nodded. We need to transport now. Are you the guardian? No, I'm nobody, just the person who opened the door. Then you can't ride with us. Grace spoke up. I'm riding with my sister. The paramedic looked at her, this small, soaking child with bleeding feet and eyes too old for her face. Sweetie, we need an adult. I'm riding with my sister, Grace repeated, not arguing, just stating reality. Something in her tone made the paramedic nod. Okay, let's go. They loaded Hope onto the stretcher. Grace climbed into the ambulance behind them. Before the doors closed, she looked back at Marcus. Thank you, she said, then added, again. The ambulance pulled away, red lights disappearing into the rain. Marcus stood in his doorway, soaking wet, watching them go. His phone buzzed, text from his head of security. Sir, cameras show no breach, no entry at the gate. How did those children access the property? Marcus looked at the muddy footprints leading from his door, traced them backward with his eyes. They didn't go toward the gate. They came from the woods, from the wild, undeveloped section of his property he'd never bothered to fence because nobody could possibly walk through it. Too dense, too dangerous, unless you were desperate enough, unless you had nowhere else to go. He texted back, false alarm, everything's fine. It wasn't fine. Nothing about this was fine. Marcus closed his door, walked back through his empty house, sat down in his study, picked up his brandy glass. His hands were still shaking, not from cold this time, from the look in Grace's eyes, from the weight of Hope's body, too light, like she was already half ghost, from the words that didn't make sense. You saved her once before. Marcus had saved exactly one person in his entire life, and she died anyway.
The hospital called at 3 a.m. Hope was stable. Critical, but stable. They'd gotten her body temperature up, started antibiotics for the pneumonia already setting in. She'd need to stay for observation, maybe longer. And the older girl? Marcus asked. Grace? She's here. Won't leave her sister's side. We've tried to get her to eat, to rest. She just sits there, watching. Is someone coming for them? Family? Social services? We've called CPS. They're sending someone in the morning. Marcus thanked them, hung up. He didn't sleep. At 6 a.m. he got dressed, not his usual suit. Jeans, a shirt he'd forgotten he owned. He drove to the hospital. The nurse at the desk recognized him immediately. Money bought recognition. Money bought access. I'm here to check on Hope, the girl brought in last night. Are you family? No, but I'm the one who called the ambulance. The nurse studied him, then nodded. Room 347, but Mr. Ashford, the social worker's already here. Room 347 was at the end of a long hallway that smelled like disinfectant and despair. Marcus had been in hospitals before. Charity events, ribbon cuttings for wings his donations had funded. Always the nice parts. Never this floor, where the walls were beige and the lighting flickered. He knocked, heard a quiet, "Come in." Grace sat in a chair beside the hospital bed. Hope lay there, tiny beneath white sheets, tubes and wires connecting her to machines. Her chest rose and fell. Alive, barely. A woman in business casual stood by the window, mid-40s, exhausted eyes, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Ashford," she said, no surprise in her voice. "I'm Jennifer Morrison, Child Protective Services." "How is she?" "Alive because you made the call. Thank you for that." Grace looked at him, said nothing, just that same watching, that same waiting. "What happens now?" Marcus asked. "Now I find out who these girls are and where they came from. Then I find them placement." "Placement?" "Foster care, emergency shelter until we can locate family members. They said they don't have family." Jennifer's expression was carefully neutral. Children say a lot of things. Often they're confused, traumatized. We'll sort it out. Marcus looked at Grace. She didn't look confused, didn't look traumatized in the way Jennifer expected. She looked like someone who'd already accepted the worst and was just waiting to see which version of it would arrive. "What if there is no family?" Marcus heard himself ask. "Then they'll enter the system. We have good foster families. They'll be taken care of." The way she said it, rehearsed, automatic, made something twist in Marcus's gut. "Can I talk to Grace? Alone?" Jennifer hesitated. "Mr. Ashford, I appreciate your concern, but you're not family. There are protocols." 5 minutes. Something in his voice made her pause. Maybe it was the tone. Maybe it was the fact that his donations probably funded half this hospital. Either way, she nodded. 5 minutes. I'll be right outside." She left, closed the door. Marcus sat down across from Grace. They looked at each other. This small girl with bleeding feet and a dying sister. This billionaire who'd spent 20 years building walls to keep the world out. "You said I saved Hope before, 5 years ago," Marcus said quietly. Grace nodded. "I've never met her sister before last night." "You did. You just don't remember. Tell me." Grace looked at Hope, at the tubes keeping her alive, then back at Marcus. "It was raining that night too. We were living in a car, me, Hope, and Mama. Mama was sick, really sick. She'd stopped eating so we could eat, stopped taking her medicine so she could buy our medicine." Marcus's throat tightened. "The car broke down on the highway, middle of nowhere, rain coming down so hard we couldn't see. Mama tried to call for help, but her phone was dead. So she put us in the car, told us to lock the doors, and she started walking, looking for help." "Grace, then you stopped.
Grace continued. Her voice was matter-of-fact, telling a story she'd told herself 100 times. You stopped. Your car stopped beside ours. You got out. You checked on us through the window. Hope was crying. I was trying to keep her warm. You broke the window, not to hurt us, to help us. You wrapped Hope in your jacket, carried her to your car. You were going to call someone, maybe police, ambulance. Marcus's hands gripped the arms of the chair. Then Mama came back, running, screaming. She thought you were taking us. She grabbed Hope from you, started yelling. You tried to explain. You gave her money. I remember that part. You pulled out your wallet and gave her everything in it, told her to get help, to take Hope to a hospital.
Did she? Grace's expression answered before her words did. She tried, but the money went to the car, to food, to bills. There's never enough money when you're poor. It just disappears, like water through your fingers. What happened to your mother? She died 3 months ago. Heart attack. She was 32. 32. Same age as Marcus's. He pushed the thought away. We went to a group home after that, Grace continued. Then foster care. 3 different families. None of them wanted to keep 2 kids, especially not when Hope got sick. She needs medicine, regular checkups. That costs money. Foster parents get a check, but it's not enough. Never enough. So you ran. So we left. There's a difference. Where were you going? Grace looked at him, really looked at him. Here. You walked through the woods to my house? Do you know how far? 7 miles. I know. I've been planning it for 2 months. Marcus felt like the floor was tilting. Why? Because you helped us once. Because when I saw your face on TV at the group home, you were getting some award for charity work. I remembered you. I remembered that you stopped, that you tried. Grace, I didn't do anything. I gave your mother some cash and left. You stopped, she repeated. Everyone else drove past us that night. You stopped. That meant something. It meant maybe you'd stop again. The weight of her words settled over Marcus like a physical thing. You came here because you thought I'd help you. I came here because my sister was dying and I didn't know where else to go. Hope stirred in the bed, made a small sound. Grace was on her feet instantly, at her sister's side, holding her hand. It's okay, Grace whispered. I'm here. We're safe. Marcus watched them, these 2 children who had nothing, who'd walked 7 miles through the woods in the rain, one of them dying because 5 years ago he'd stopped his car. He'd forgotten that night, pushed it away, another sob story on a highway, another problem he couldn't fix. He'd given some money and told himself that was enough. It hadn't been enough. Jennifer knocked on the door, poked her head in. Mr. Ashford, time's up. Marcus stood, walked to the door, stopped. What happens if they don't find family? He asked again. I told you, foster care, the system. The system that's already failed them 3 times? Jennifer's professional mask cracked slightly. Mr. Ashford, I understand you're concerned, but there are procedures, regulations. These children need specialized care, Hope especially. She has medical needs that require... I'll cover it. Silence. Excuse me? Jennifer said. Hope's medical needs. I'll cover all of it, whatever she needs. That's very generous, but I'll set up a trust, a separate account managed by a third party if necessary. Full medical care, both of them, whatever they need. Jennifer stared at him. Mr. Ashford, that's not how this works. You can't just throw money at... Why not? I throw money at everything else. The words came out harsher than he intended, but they were true. Money was the only thing he knew how to give, the only language he spoke. Jennifer's expression softened. These girls need stability, a home, care. Those things can't be bought.
I know that. Do you? The question hung there. Marcus looked back at Grace. She was singing softly to Hope, a lullaby he half remembered from somewhere distant. Her voice was thin, fragile, but steady. No, I don't know that. I don't know anything about kids or homes or any of this, but I know what it's like to fail someone who needed help. I know what it's like to walk away when I should have stayed, and I can't. His voice cracked. I can't do it again. Jennifer studied him for a long moment. I need to make some calls. This is highly irregular, but stay here. Don't go anywhere.
She left. Marcus sat back down. Grace stopped singing, looked at him. "Are you going to take us?" she asked. "I don't know if they'll let me." "But you want to?" Did he? 24 hours ago, his biggest concern was which charity gala to skip, which investment opportunity to pursue, how to spend money he'd never run out of on things that never mattered. Now he was sitting in a hospital room with 2 children he'd known for less than a day, offering to upend his entire life. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I want to." Grace nodded, like she'd already known, like that's why she'd walked 7 miles through the rain. "Thank you," she said, then added, again. The approval process took 6 weeks. 6 weeks of interviews, background checks, home inspections, psychological evaluations. Jennifer Morrison warned him it would be brutal. She wasn't wrong. Every aspect of Marcus's life got examined. His finances, easy. His criminal record, clean. His past relationships, complicated. "You've never been married," Jennifer noted during one session. "No." "No long-term relationships?" "Nothing that lasted." "Why not?" Marcus looked at her. "Is that relevant?" "Mr. Ashford, I need to understand who you are, what kind of environment these children would be entering, why someone with your resources, your lifestyle, wants to suddenly become a guardian to 2 traumatized little girls." "I told you why." "You told me you felt guilty about an interaction 5 years ago. That's not a reason to completely upend your life. Then what would be a good enough reason?" Jennifer set down her clipboard, looked at him without the professional mask. "The truth," she said. Marcus was quiet for a long time. "I had a daughter," he finally said. The words felt like glass in his throat. 20 years ago. Her name was Maya. She was 7 years old, same age as Grace. Jennifer didn't react, just waited. "My ex-wife, we weren't married yet then. She got pregnant when we were both broke, struggling. We decided to keep the baby, thought we could make it work. I was trying to start my company. Maxine was working 3 jobs. We were drowning." "What happened?" "Maya got sick, pneumonia. We couldn't afford the right treatment, couldn't afford insurance. I was busy trying to save the company, making deals, chasing investors. Maxine begged me to come home. I said I would, right after this one meeting, this one deal that would change everything." His hands were shaking. He pressed them flat against his thighs. "I got the deal, came home with a check that would save the company. Maxine was sitting in Maya's room. Our daughter was already gone." Silence filled the office. "She died while I was signing papers," Marcus said. His voice was flat now, dead. "While I was celebrating, while I was choosing money over my child." "That's not fair to yourself," Jennifer said gently. "Isn't it? I made a choice, work or family, money or my daughter. I chose wrong. Maxine left me that night, told me I was already gone anyway. She was right. And you think taking in Grace and Hope will fix that?" "No," Marcus looked at her. "Nothing will fix that. But maybe I can stop making the same mistake." Jennifer was quiet for a moment. Then she made a note. "I'm going to recommend approval. But Marcus, can I call you Marcus?" He nodded. "These girls aren't your daughter. They can't replace her. If you're doing this to ease your guilt, I'm doing this because I should have done more 5 years ago, because I should have done more 20 years ago, because I have all this money and this massive empty house, and these 2 kids have nothing and nobody. That's reason enough."
Jennifer studied him, then nodded slowly. Yeah, that's reason enough. The day they came home, Marcus stood in his driveway, terrified. He'd prepared everything, hired people to convert 2 of his spare bedrooms into actual children's rooms. Bright colors, books, toys, everything the internet said kids needed. It looked like a showroom, perfect, lifeless. Grace looked at it all with that same unreadable expression. "It's too much," she said quietly. "Is it? I can change. No, I mean, it's more than we've ever had. It's hard to believe it's real." Hope, who'd recovered now, stronger but still fragile, ran to the bed, touched the stuffed animals arranged carefully on top. "Can I keep these?" "They're yours," Marcus said. "Mine? Really mine?" The fact that she had to ask broke something in him. "Yeah, sweetheart, really yours." Hope hugged a teddy bear that cost more than Marcus cared to admit. She looked at Grace, her eyes filled with tears. "Grace, we have a room." Grace's expression finally cracked. She pulled her sister into a hug. They stood there, these 2 children who survived more than anyone should, crying because they had a room. Marcus left them alone, went to his study, poured a brandy he didn't drink.
Jennifer found him there an hour later. She'd stayed to help with the transition. "They're settling in," she said. "Grace is reading to Hope. It's sweet." "I don't know how to do this," Marcus admitted. "I don't know how to be what they need." "Nobody does, not at first. You just show up, every day. That's what they need, someone who shows up." "What if I fail them?" "You will, not catastrophically, hopefully, but you'll make mistakes, say the wrong thing, do the wrong thing. That's parenting. You apologize, you learn, you do better next time." "And if that's not enough?" Jennifer put a hand on his shoulder. "Marcus, you stopped on a highway 5 years ago when everyone else drove past. You opened your door at midnight when most people wouldn't. You're already doing better than you think." She left. Marcus sat alone, listening to the sound of voices upstairs. Children's voices. Laughter. His house hadn't heard laughter in 20 years. He stood, walked upstairs, stopped outside their room. Grace was reading Where the Wild Things Are. Hope was snuggled under covers that probably cost more than their old car. They both looked up when they saw him. "Can I—" Marcus hesitated. "Can I listen?" Grace studied him, then nodded, moved over slightly on the bed. Marcus sat down. Hope immediately curled against his side, like it was the most natural thing in the world, like she'd been doing it her whole life. Grace continued reading. Her voice was steady, sure. She stumbled over some words, harder ones, but powered through. When she finished, Hope was asleep. "You're a good sister," Marcus said quietly. "I had to be. There was nobody else." "There's somebody else now." Grace looked at him. "You really mean that? You're not going to change your mind? Send us back?" "Never. People always change their minds. We're too expensive, too hard, too broken." "You're not broken, Grace. You're 7 years old. You're supposed to be playing with dolls, not raising your sister. You're not broken. The world broke around you. That's not your fault." Grace's eyes filled with tears. She tried to blink them away. Failed. "I'm scared. I'm scared this is going to disappear. That I'll wake up and we'll be back in a car or a group home or somewhere cold. I'm scared to believe this is real." Marcus pulled her into a hug. She resisted for a second, then collapsed against him, sobbed into his shoulder. "It's real," he promised. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. You're home." "Home," Grace repeated, testing the word. "We've never had one of those." "You do now." They stayed like that for a long time, this broken man and these broken girls, putting pieces back together in a house that was finally becoming a home. The first month was chaos. Marcus learned that children were loud, messy, unpredictable. They didn't follow schedules, didn't care about his meetings or his routines. They needed food at random times. They had nightmares. They fought over things that made no sense. He also learned that children were joy, pure, unfiltered joy. Hope's laugh when she discovered the pool, Grace's smile when she finished a hard book, the way they'd grab his hands when they were scared, the way they'd share their toys even though sharing had been survival for so long. They were teaching him how to live, not just exist, not just make money and attend galas and pretend he was making a difference. Actually live. School enrollment came with challenges. Grace was behind, not from lack of intelligence, but from missing so much. Hope needed accommodations for her medical needs. Marcus hired tutors, arranged therapists, made sure they had everything. But the thing that mattered most cost nothing. Showing up. Every day. Breakfast, homework, bedtime stories. He canceled meetings, skipped events. His assistant nearly had a breakdown the first time he said, "No, I have to help with a science project." His board of directors noticed, commented, worried about his focus. Marcus stopped caring. One evening, 3 months in, Hope came to him crying. She'd had another nightmare, the old kind, where she was cold and dying and nobody came. Marcus sat with her, held her, let her cry. "Why did Mama leave us?" Hope asked through her tears. "She didn't want to leave you, sweetheart. She got sick. Sometimes people get sick and they can't stay." "Like me?" Marcus's heart clenched. "You're getting better. The doctors are helping. You're going to be okay. Promise?" He looked at this little girl who'd almost died on his lawn, who survived more than any child should, who still asked for promises even though every adult in her life had broken them. "I promise," he said, "and I'm going to keep promising every single day. Even when I'm grown up, even when you're grown up." Hope snuggled closer. "You're better than our other daddies." "Other daddies?"
The foster ones, they were okay, but they didn't keep us. You're keeping us, right? Right, Marcus said firmly. I'm keeping you. Forever. Forever is a long time. Good. That's how long I'm planning to stick around. Hope fell asleep in his arms. Marcus carried her back to bed, tucked her in, watched her breathe. Grace appeared in the doorway. You mean it? The forever thing? I mean it. Why? You could have any life you want. Why choose this? Why choose us? Marcus thought about that night on the highway, about Maya, about all the years he'd spent building walls and pushing people away because caring hurt too much. Because you walked 7 miles through the rain to find me, he said. Because you believed I'd help when nobody else did. Because you're brave and strong, and you deserve someone who sees that. Both of you do. Grace was quiet for a moment. Then she crossed the room, hugged him. I love you, she whispered. 3 words. Simple. Devastating. Marcus held her, this little girl who'd survived everything, who'd saved her sister, who'd refused to give up. I love you too, he said, and meant it, completely. Year 2 brought stability. Grace flourished in school, made friends, joined the chess club, started writing stories, dark ones, processing trauma, but stories nonetheless. Hope's health improved, the regular medication, the good nutrition, the lack of stress. She was still fragile, always would be, but she was alive, thriving even. Marcus changed too. He learned to cook, badly at first, better with practice.
started attending parent-teacher conferences, soccer games, school plays where Hope forgot half her lines but beamed with pride anyway. His old life, the galas, the networking, the empty socializing, felt like a costume he'd finally taken off. One day, Jennifer stopped by for a routine check-in. "How are things?" she asked. "Messy, loud, exhausting." "Perfect." Jennifer smiled. "They're lucky to have you. I'm lucky to have them." "You know what strikes me? Most people in your position would hire nannies, staff, keep the kids at arm's length. You jumped in completely. Why?" Marcus thought about it. "Because I spent 20 years at arm's length from everything. It didn't work. This," he gestured at the chaos around them. Grace's homework spread across the dining table, Hope's art projects covering the walls. "This is messy and scary, and I still don't know what I'm doing half the time. But it's real. They're real. And I'm not going to miss it. Not again." Jennifer nodded slowly. "You're a good father, Marcus." The word hit him. Father. He'd spent so long running from that title, believing he'd failed it, didn't deserve it. Now it fit. That evening, Hope asked about the photo on his desk, the only one he kept. Maya, 7 years old, smiling. "Who's that?" Hope asked. Marcus picked up the frame, looked at his daughter, his first daughter. "Her name was Maya. She was my little girl, a long time ago." "Where is she now?" "She died when she was your age." "That's sad." "Yeah, it is." "Is that why you are alone in that big house?" "Kids. They cut right through everything." "Yeah," Marcus said quietly. "I was alone because I was scared. Losing Maya hurt so much I didn't want to risk loving anyone else again." "But you love us now," Hope said, matter-of-factly. "I do." "Doesn't that scare you?" "Terrifies me." "Then why do it?" Marcus looked at this little girl, this wise, impossible child. "Because love is supposed to be scary. It means you have something worth losing, something worth fighting for. I was so scared of the pain, I forgot about the joy. You and Grace, you reminded me. Maya would have liked that." Hope touched the photo gently. "I bet she was nice." "She was. She would have loved you, both of you." "Can I keep her picture in my room so she's not alone?" Marcus's vision blurred. "Yes, sweetheart. She'd like that." Hope took the frame carefully, walked to her room. Grace watched from the hallway. "You're crying." "Happy tears," Marcus said. "There's a difference." "I'm glad we knocked on your door." "Me too, Grace. Me too." The confrontation came in year 3. Marcus's ex-wife, Maxine, showed up unannounced. He hadn't seen her since Maya's funeral. 23 years of silence. She looked older, tired, but her eyes were the same, sharp, seeing everything. "I heard you adopted," she said without preamble. "Guardian, technically. The adoption finalized last month." 2 girls, same age Maya would have been? "It's not like that, isn't it?" Maxine walked past him into the house, looked around at the chaos, the life. "You're trying to replace her." "I'm not. You couldn't save our daughter, so you found 2 different ones. That's not healing, Marcus. That's avoidance." The words hit hard, because part of him had wondered the same thing. "You're right," he said quietly. "When they first showed up, maybe that's what it was. Guilt, trying to fix a mistake I can't undo. But it's been 3 years, Maxine. 3 years of homework and doctor's appointments and nightmares and laughter. These girls, they're not replacements. They're themselves, unique, irreplaceable. And yeah, loving them is terrifying because I know what it's like to lose a daughter, but I'm doing it anyway. Not to fix the past, to actually live in the present." Maxine was quiet for a long moment. "Show me," she finally said. "Show you what?" "Show me who they are, these girls who changed you. Marcus hesitated, then nodded. They found Grace in the library, reading. Always reading. "Grace," Marcus said gently, "I'd like you to meet someone. This is Maxine. She's an old friend." Grace looked up, studied Maxine with that too-old gaze. "You're the lady from the picture, the one with Marcus and the little girl. You saw that picture?" Hope wanted to keep it in her room, with Maya. She talks to her sometimes, to the picture, tells her about her day. Maxine's composure cracked. "She does? Is that okay? I know she wasn't our sister, but Hope says everyone needs someone to talk to, even people in pictures." Maxine sat down hard. That's very kind." Hope came running in then, covered in paint, a masterpiece clutched in her hands. "Marcus, look! I made a—" "Oh." She stopped, saw the stranger. "Hope, this is Maxine," Marcus said. Hope studied her, then smiled, the unguarded, complete smile of a child who'd learned to trust again. "Hi, do you want to see my painting? It's a family. See? That's Marcus, that's Grace, that's me, and that's Maya. She's an angel now, but she's still part of the family." She held up the painting. 4 figures, 3 solid, 1 transparent, glowing. Maxine took the painting with shaking hands. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "You can have it if you want," Hope offered generously. "I can make more. I make one every week. Marcus puts them on the fridge. We have to get a bigger fridge soon." Maxine looked at Marcus, at Grace, at Hope, at this impossible family built from brokenness. "She's not forgotten," Marcus said quietly. "Maya, she's part of this, part of who I am, who we are. The girls know about her. We talk about her. She's not replaced. She's remembered, honored. By strangers? By family. Hope's right. Maya's part of our family, always will be." Maxine stood, walked to Marcus, looked at him, really looked at him for the first time in decades. "You're different. The man I left, he was drowning in guilt, building walls. You're actually living." "I'm trying." "No, you're succeeding." She touched his face gently. "I'm glad you found them. I'm glad they found you. Maya would be too." She kissed his cheek, turned to leave. "Maxine?" Marcus called. She stopped. "You could visit, if you want. The girls would like that. They could know Maya's mother." Maxine's eyes filled with tears. "I'd like that. Very much." She left. Hope tugged Marcus's sleeve. "Is she sad?" "A little, but good sad, if that makes sense." "Like your happy tears?" "Exactly like that." Hope nodded sagely. "Adults are confusing." "Yeah, sweetheart, we really are." Year 5. Grace was 12 now. Hope was 9. They'd been a family for 5 years, longer than some marriages lasted. Grace excelled at everything. Straight A's, student council, already talking about college. Marcus had started a fund, full ride to wherever she wanted, whatever she wanted to study. Hope had her struggles. Her health would always be delicate, but she was here, alive, painting and dancing and filling the house with music. They'd survived. All of them. One evening, Marcus found Grace in his study, looking at the old photos he kept in a drawer. Pictures from 20 years ago. Him and Maxine, Maya. "Can I ask you something?" Grace said. "Always. Do you ever regret it, taking us in? Your life would be simpler without us." Marcus sat beside her. "Grace, before you knocked on my door, I had everything. Money, success, respect. I had everything except a reason to use any of it. You and Hope, you gave me purpose. You gave me family. You gave me a reason to be better. Simpler isn't better. This is better. Even when it's hard? Especially when it's hard. The hard parts mean something. They matter." Grace was quiet. Then, "I remember that night when we walked through the woods. I was so scared.
Hope was dying. I didn't know if we'd make it, but I kept walking because I remembered you. I remembered that 5 years earlier, you stopped. Nobody else stopped, just you. And I thought, maybe if I could find you again, maybe you'd stop again. I'm glad you found me. Me too. But Marcus, I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you a long time ago. His heart clenched. What is it? Grace pulled out an old newspaper clipping, worn, folded and refolded 100 times. It was the article about Maya's death, about Marcus, about how he'd started his company the night his daughter died, about the guilt that drove him to donate millions to children's hospitals. I knew who you were, Grace said quietly. Before we came to your house, I knew about Maya, about what happened. The social worker at the group home, she had this article. She'd talk about you sometimes. The billionaire who lost his daughter, who spent millions trying to make up for it. That's how I recognized you on TV. Not just from the highway, from this article. Marcus felt cold. You knew? The whole time? I knew you'd understand. Knew you'd help. Because you knew what it felt like to lose someone. I'm sorry. I should have told you. But I was scared you'd think I was manipulating you. That I only came because of your money. And it wasn't like that. I came because I thought you'd understand. And I was right. You did.
Marcus looked at this girl. This incredible, brilliant, too wise girl who'd saved her sister by being smart enough to know who would help them. Grace, he said slowly, you walked 7 miles through the rain, carrying a dying child, to find a stranger you thought might help because you read about his dead daughter. That's not manipulation. That's survival. That's courage. And you were right. I did understand. I do understand. You're not mad? Mad? Grace, you're 12 years old. You did what you had to do to save your sister, to save yourself. I'm not mad. I'm in awe. Grace threw her arms around him, held tight. I love you, she said. Not because you're rich, not because of the big house or the nice things, because you chose us, because you stayed. I love you too, Marcus said, both of you, always. Hope appeared in the doorway. Are we having a family hug without me? She launched herself at them. They collapsed in a pile, laughing. This family, built from broken pieces, from guilt and grief and a knock at midnight, from a desperate walk through the woods and a man who finally learned what mattered. They were messy, imperfect, scarred. They were perfect. Years later, Grace stood at a podium, college graduation, top of her class. Marcus sat in the audience, Hope beside him, Maxine a few seats over. They'd become friends over the years, connected by the past, by Maya, by this strange, beautiful family they'd accidentally built. Grace gave her speech, talked about survival, about the people who stop when others drive past, about choosing to care. She didn't mention Marcus by name, didn't tell their story, but everyone there knew. The news had covered it years ago. The billionaire and the orphans, the midnight knock, the impossible family. After the ceremony, they gathered for photos. Grace in her cap and gown, Hope, 15 now, healthy, thriving, beside her. Marcus behind them, Maxine to the side. Family. Thank you, Grace said quietly to Marcus, for everything, for stopping, for staying. Thank you for knocking, for being brave enough to ask for help, for teaching me what actually matters. So what now? Hope asked. Grace is going to law school. I'm starting high school. What's your plan, old man? Marcus laughed. Old man? I'm 53. Ancient, Hope teased. I don't know, honestly. Keep showing up. Keep being here. That's enough, right? Grace hugged him. That's everything. They walked to the car, this family that shouldn't exist,
built from tragedy and grace and hope. The knock at midnight had changed everything, not because of money, not because of what Marcus could provide, because someone chose to open the door, because someone chose to care. And in the end, that's what saved them all. Not the big house, not the money, not the security, just a door opening, just a hand reaching out, just someone saying, "I see you, I've got you, you're home." That's all any of them ever needed.
That's all any of us need. To be seen, to be chosen, to be home. And sometimes, if we're very lucky, that starts with 3 soft knocks at midnight and a choice to answer.